Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Historical Horses. How are you all doing? Now, today's topic is really exciting because I knew nothing about it before, never seen the painting before, knew nothing about it. So it makes researching it extra exciting because everything you're finding out is brand new. So it all happened because I saw a painting while researching my last vlog and looking for images to go into it. I saw this painting, and it was a beautiful painting, and it was a very fancy dome building, and it had horses in it, and I was thinking, where's this then? I'm thinking it's not in the UK, like I'm sure it'll be somewhere in Europe, and it looks a bit too extravagant for the UK. But it did turn out to be in the UK, and it turned out to be Brighton Pavilion. So I was like, hang on a second, horses in Brighton Pavilion, like, I never heard about this. So off I went onto Google, started Googling Brighton Pavilion horses, and sure enough, Brighton Pavilion's dome once was stables. Who knew that? I didn't. I was like, wow, I mean, this must be the most opulent, lavish stables ever, surely. So they were built by the Prince Regent, who was George IV. So the Prince Regent loved building, he loved his horses, he was very clever, he was very lavish, spent a lot of money, a little too much money, and really transformed Windsor Castle, Buckingham Palace, and built the Brighton Pavilion. Now, the Prince Regent really did love his horses. He enjoyed just pleasure riding, he enjoyed his hunting, his racing, and his carriage driving, so he really did love horses. So John Nash was the architect for Brighton Pavilion. Now, the dome, which held the horses, first had horses in it in 1806, and it's thought that there was, well, there's differing opinions actually online to exactly how many stables were in the dome. Some say it was around 40, some say it's around 60, so quite a big difference, but the majority think it was around 40. And above the stables was a balcony, and you'll be able to see it in the pictures that I put up, and that was where the groomsmen's quarters were. You can quite clearly see in this painting the upstairs balcony, so this would have been above the stables, and this is where the groomsmen would have slept. From the outside, very fancy accommodation, and this image is from World War I, when the dome was used as a military hospital for wounded Indian soldiers, and again you can see very clearly the upstairs balcony in this picture. The stables and groomsmen quarters were in the Brighton Dome, as you can see in the previous picture, and that has now become the concert hall. And the Corn Exchange was where the indoor riding arena was. So this is a painting of George IV's riding house at the Brighton Pavilion, and you can see it's absolutely beautiful, very much like an indoor arena. Now, if you Google Brighton Pavilion Corn Exchange, which is now what this building is called, you will see it looks remarkably the same. The structure of it, the windows, go and have a look. The riding house measured 178 feet by 58 feet, which works out around 54 metres by 17 in today's standards of riding arenas. There is an actual tunnel in the basement at the pavilion, which George IV used to use himself, which would take him from the pavilion to his stables so that he wouldn't be seen by anybody. Now, this isn't an actual picture of said tunnel. This is just a random tunnel, but it looked very similar. Sadly, because we're as far back as the early 1800s, there's not huge amounts of pictures to be able to put into this vlog. I mean, we're just reliant on the few paintings that I have managed to find. And also there's not huge amounts of information either. You know, I have spent hours researching, trying to find out more details about what the stables look like and kind of the roles of the horses there, which I'm assuming would have been carriage horses, hunt horses, and probably pleasure horses. But I want to know more. I really do want to know so much more. But, you know, it's not that well documented, really. And it's such a shame because they just look like the most phenomenal stables ever. And also the thing that I think really fascinates me is the fact that there's an indoor arena. I assumed back in that period of time that there would never have been an arena. Like, I thought people just rode out on the land and sort of along the sort of tracks. But I didn't ever think people would be in arenas. So that kind of blows my mind more than anything. Supposedly, the stable's exterior was inspired by the Jama Masjid, which is in Delhi. This gives you a little taste of just how lavish and splendid the pavilion is. This was the banqueting room. After George died, the pavilion was passed on to his younger brother, William IV, and he used it on and off. And after he died, it was then passed on to Queen Victoria, who felt it wasn't private enough for her nor large enough for her family. So she actually sold it to the Brighton town for just over £50,000. But before that, she'd actually completely cleared it out, using much of the furniture in other homes that she owned. And so there we have it. The most stunning dome stables at Brighton Pavilion. I mean, so lavish, so opulent, just breathtaking.